You're live. Go, Josh.
Just an introduction then.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I just, there's a lot of debate raging in the country and across much of the world about at what age should we hold children criminally liable. Though that is to say, in a succinct definition, those under 18, but with the stratification of under 16, under 13, 14, under 10. At what point is someone entirely responsible for their actions, and at what point does one is aware or appreciative of the consequences, both for him or herself or his or her victim or victims? At what point do we hold them liable? How do we deal with it? Are we tackling this problem effectively? And if we are not, what strategies should we use? Maybe not as a substitute so much as a compromise. But yeah, that is my overarching topical kernel, if you like. Yeah.
Josh, you just choose who should go next. You go for it. You
lead
this one.
Josh might as well.
No. I think Khalid, you can go next.
Okay. I mean, interestingly, I'm not sure how much I've got to say about this. So in terms of responsibility, I think because I'm religious and I believe in biology, and we become self-aware when we go through puberty. I think that's, if we can have some sort of marker age around that and say that's the point where you're taking responsibility. And then before that, I think the parents need to take some of that responsibility. So the reason why you brought up this topic, I think, was it some sort of anniversary of the Jamie Bulger killing? Or so there were two. Was it two 10-year-olds that killed? And how old? What were the age of
he was 2 years old.
So how old were the killers though? They were 10, weren't they?
10. They were both 10.
Yeah, and what did they do? They took the toddler to a train. I can't remember. What was the detail roughly?
They took him to a train track and basically, I hate to use these words, they bludgeoned him multiple times, and that was quite shocking, and that was, you just, it does, that just beggars belief. And particularly when it was a child doing it to two children doing it to another child, it just really, it gets all kinds of emotions racing. It's
sure. So I just wanted, because I forgot to check up the backstory for one of the reasons why you brought this topic up. And obviously it's quite an emotive topic. We get very angry, and we should, I suppose, but it's dangerous to just get angry and forget that there are other players in it. Where were the parents, right? And I mean, what kind of children do that unless they have serious mental health problems, right? So we've got to kind of look at the whole picture, and I think that's important. And I'm a really big fan. I don't know what the right word is, but I'm a big believer in looking at families and making sure the parents are taking responsibility for those situations where they really are young. And I'm not sure what else I've got to say about that. Yeah, so that's my bit.
I agree with that position. As far as in the Jewish faith is the same thing, is that the parents are responsible for the child's actions until puberty, especially until the age of manhood, which is 13 in our faith for the males, and 12 for the females. The parents are actually also responsible for the crimes. If the children commit crimes, the parents are held responsible until puberty. That's according to our laws, even, not just tradition. Yeah.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Go on, Josh. You go. Go.
No. Tasmin hasn't.
No, I was asking Josh to decide who. So
okay.
Yeah. So obviously, it's quite a complex issue, and there's not really a black and white answer to it. Obviously, children are born pure and precious. They I do believe that children are born as kind of a blank slate, roughly a blank slate, and the way they develop is mainly, I think, to do with nurture rather than nature. It is a very, very rare case that a child can be psychopathic or malicious, and I do agree that you should look at the family and the upbringing in some cases. But what about children, that grow up without that family unit? What about children who grow up in a dysfunctional place? It's not fair to say that, they must have had a terrible childhood to commit a horrible act. But then again, children do copy adults around them. They pick up behaviours and habits, and they mimic what they see, whether it be media, film, close family members. There is a responsibility, I think, to look at while people are, considering having children, educating them in that sense, so that they're aware of how they should bring up their children to develop them correctly. But then again, as some people would think, this way is correct to bring up a child, very traditional and very, very kind of in a box, if you will, very kind of restrained and restricted. It's on the spectrum, the way you bring up a child. I don't think there's any there shouldn't be any legal responsibility for the parents if a child commits a crime, but they should have consequences, but I don't know what they are as yet. I do think that no child is beyond help. They should be held liable in a legal sense. As to reference the Jamie Bolger case, they were both 10, is very young, but considering what they've done and the ingenuity for it, and they had the capacity to premeditate that crime, they should be punished for that. But I don't think any child is beyond help.
What role do you think society should play in a family, children?
Say that again?
What role do you think society has to play in a child's committing a crime, especially when we have a period of austerity? Which is
what role should society play?
I think she made her points really well. I didn't think we needed.
I think that although there is most children grow up with a family unit, I think there needs to be like community support, life lessons in schools, different contributions from, like community centres or practical lessons of how to behave around people, like boundaries, consent, behavioural kind of lessons, if that makes sense. Because some children aren't taught right from wrong at home. Some children grow up in a way that's chaotic and they think that's normal, and then are thrust in society and think, hang on a minute, this is how I've always been, and suddenly it's wrong. And obviously social services is knackered, but there really needs to be money flooded into that, because there's a lot of children that are going down a bad path, but social services don't intercept because either no one brings it up, or social services are so underfunded, they just think they go for one visit, oh, it's fine, and then they leave. It is a really complex thing, but yes, children should be held responsible legally, and society needs to give children a break, I think, unless it's something completely catastrophic. I'm just going to read this just to end. One of my favourite writers, Dostoevsky, who written in one of his books, his great books, The Brothers Karamazov, it's love children especially, for they too are sinless like the angels. They live to soften and purify our hearts, and as it were to guide us. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you.
Who's next, Josh?
Well, Claire hasn't said anything on it yet. Is she still here, Claire?
Yes, I'm here, waiting to speak. And I'm going to say that nobody has mentioned whether the parents of John Venables and Robert Thompson were married. John Venables were they married? Does anybody know? Did anybody even think to ask what kind of families these two murderous boys came from?
Well,
Tasman finds it funny.
I do find that funny because it's irrelevant.
Why is it irrelevant? I mean, are children, are parents responsible for their children or not?
They are, but when a child commits a crime, premeditated crime of that magnitude, the parent was not there. they didn't instruct the child to do it, so therefore the parents are
homes
not
do they come
legally
from
they're not
anyway?
legally obligated to be
Oh,
punished for that.
okay. Do you have any children by any chance?
That's a
I think
personal
that's
question.
irrelevant.
Okay.
Bit of a
But
yeah,
let me just finish my point about the background of John Venables and Robert Thompson. Nobody even gave a damn. Nobody even checked up if their parents were married, what kind of homes they came from.
I think you're
And,
deviating from the original question.
No, it's a point. Let
Hang
me
on.
make a point. Yeah.
It's,
Sorry.
you
Yeah,
can
go
make a statement.
Yeah.
But it's
Well,
clear.
yeah,
make your
go ahead.
statement. Make your statement.
No, I just think you're deviating from Josh's original question. Is that should children be held legally responsible?
I'm saying, well, no, or their parents.
We're not saying no one gives a damn about whether the parents
Yeah,
are married.
it sounds
The
like
question
it.
is about the
It's
children.
not my kid who got killed. Oh, doesn't matter. Let's forgive. Not even inquire into the shit background of. Oh, yeah, I bet all kinds of things have happened since then. But it's not your problem because it's not your kid. Yeah, keep waving it away. Dust. I mean, you're not parents, so you don't give a damn. So if somebody's kid gets murdered, you can just play these bleeding heart people who say, "Oh, just forgive everyone." Let's forgive on behalf of the victims of the murdered child, the parents. Let's just forgive because we're so liberal and everybody's so fine. So my point again is that.
You still have.
There is criminal responsibility because, as Sam says, in Judaism anyway, that 12 for women, 12 for females, 14 for boys is the age of criminal responsibility. They're responsible for their own sins. Otherwise, their parents
they were 10
are
though.
responsible for their
to,
sins. So I guess I think the best way of dealing with it is if your kid murders somebody else's kid, you get it in the neck. Then you might think of taking responsibility for the shit that your kids do.
Yeah, just for a bit of correction though, the kids were, when they committed this crime, they were 10. They were not 13 or 12 for that matter. They were 10.
Okay, well, I think that their parents still get it in the neck. Okay, that's one view.
Okay, all right.
You still have two minutes if you wish to.
I've made my point, so I'll give the floor to whoever wants to address any other points I raise.
If you relinquished your 2 minutes, I will, respectfully accept them.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, it's open. It's
I love to hear myself talking.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, there we go.
Sam.
All right.
Yeah.
It's just added commentary on, again, the decline of Western society as far as this phenomenon of criminality to the point of murder at the age of prepubescence. It's just another commentary on Western society becoming totally sick. It's totally sick. If it's not that we should not have children, is that when you do have children, they become so corrupted by the culture and by or the lack of values in a declining culture that it's another disincentive for having children. You see these stories, you hear these stories, and then you say, why would I want to bring children into the world when they're going to be corrupted to such a degree, to such a point that when they reach even when they're young enough and they're prepubescent and they commit crimes of murder, it's like, again, it's just all the reasons why I believe there's a more nefarious and sinister agenda of population control.
You are repeating yourself from earlier now, so if you're going to use 2 minutes.
You mean the last stream?
If you are going to add to the debate, please bring new facts or ideas or opinions, because
that's my fact is that children shouldn't be murdering one another at the age of 10.
And if they do, they should get it in the neck too, and then it stops the parents from wondering.
Thank you. Sorry. If you don't mind, I'll go next.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I think the the other speakers are brilliant in their committing to their ideas to this debate, but they to say deluded in this, what they miss out here fundamentally is that we've only just had a modern system of reporting statistics on crimes that have happened. We've always had this capability to record the crimes that happen in society. But that's never been the interest. We've always lived in a dictatorship which wishes to hide the misery and horror that happens inside this Abrahamic construction which they have. Their solution to the problems of the world is burying the statistics utterly and completely in the ground. Knowing how children are being repressed, murdered, and other horrible crimes that are happening now, it's just a recent phenomenon. And it's a recent phenomenon which we now can actually record and actually have the privilege to make comment upon. But this is, the other speakers are acting like this is just literally happened in the last, less than 100 years. But in actual fact, what's really changed in the last 100 years is the fact that we've actually had, people have gone, hang on, the society that these Abrahamic people are so proud of, let's write down some facts about them for once, shall we? Let's actually engage into and test their reality, rather than having the last 2,000 years of paedophile priests getting away with their horror utterly and completely on children. So the idea here that this is a recent phenomenon is just the grand illusion there, because what they're really saying is we've just recently had facts and figures where people like me, you, and the ladies and gentlemen on the other side of the TV screen there can actually make a comment on, where before they lived in a fantasy world told to them by their Abrahamic leadership, their priest, their Jewish leader, Christian leader, Catholic leader, who instructed them, life is beautiful, don't worry about what we're doing, just carry on regardless, and we'll worry about all the other things that are happening. And what they mean by that is we're going to throw all the information and statistics in the bin that contradict our reality. And that's been the last 2,000 years of reality. That it's done on purpose. We've always had for years capabilities of writing numbers down. It's interesting, the numbers that don't get written down are the ones that disagree with your so-called reality. So just getting back onto children, the case that Josh brings up, I do believe, as I said to him before, it's an extreme case, and a variant of such nature, it's very hard to comment upon. But the children did go to prison.
Well, they went to an offenders institution.
An offenders institution, which means prison for children. And nobody in their right mind would disagree with that. But I think what Tasmin said, which is that we need strong support structures around families and communities, support centres, NHS, communities, youth centres, play areas where children can play, and strong and profound education, and not from religious schools, which will just constantly breed into society this idea of we must just profoundly hate anything which is not us, which of course years to come will lead to future genocides and misunderstandings, which when you don't grow up with people that are different with you, then you're always going to have those misunderstandings, which is why multiculturalism is hated so much, because it's so much harder to kill somebody you grew up with. It's fundamentally harder to do that. So youth crimes, they're always going to happen, but they dramatically happen when austerity happens, which is what the Abrahamic leadership have always imposed on society, while their own children get to go to private schools, by the way. Let's not forget that. They get to go to privileged schools with proper education, proper education, that's there. And everyone else, I went to comprehensive, not that comprehensive, it wasn't comprehensive enough. And things like sex education must be taught, the diversity of it, because once we normalize that being human isn't a sin, guess what? We normalize humanity and the beauty that shines from that. Right, if I have 5 minutes, Callie, I think you're the only person that hasn't spoken. Is that correct?
Oh, when I spoke, I only spoke for 1 or 2 minutes.
Oh, Josh, sorry.
I go for it.
My bad. I'm terrible at this.
Okay.
So,
Summarise, yeah.
Did you have 5 minutes?
Yeah, well, I did, yeah.
All right, sorry. Callie,
I've done my bit. So we just do 1 minute.
Wait, Claire conceded her 2 minutes to me, but I didn't have my full 5 minutes.
Oh, you didn't do your... Oh, okay, you didn't do
Well,
your 5
there you
minutes.
go.
Go for it.
You've got your 5 minutes, mate. Thank you very much for bringing that up.
All right, so yeah, I'll hog more time now for my 5 minutes spiel. I think at this point, from having learned from both the public school system and parochial religious school that I went to as part of my upbringing and my schooling, I personally believe that I'm lucky that my son is in a school that teaches him religious values. Even though it is a public school, there is time to be taught the Hebrew scriptures in the school. It teaches him. The teachers actually do teach him the Hebrew scriptures as a part of our heritage, history, and ethics and morals. They do actually have these lessons taught to them in school, despite the fact that it's not a full-fledged religious education. I'm all in favor of it. Even my ex-wife is also in favor of it. The only ones in Israel that are opposed to religious schooling are the radical leftist, Marxist, communist, socialist radicals that want to make people, by means of coercion and guilt tripping them, sort of unhinged and without a mooring, without a foundation, without roots. This is Bolshevik indoctrination. It's all it is. It's Karl Marx, and Karl Marx, by the way, was an apparatchik of the Fabian Society in the 19th century. Again, all these Tasman mentioned oligarchs and controllers, and trying to get people put into their little niche, into their little box. I say these people are more diabolical by their pushing extremist Bolshevik ideology on the youth, and trying to rip them away from their traditions, their national and religious identity, for the sake of the how would Marx phrase it, the collective, or the what's the name that he gives aside from the bourgeois? There's the proletariat. For the proletariat. All right, it's just recycled crap from the 19th century that failed, that led to the deaths of tens of millions of people, that led to reactionary organizations like the Nazis and in Hitler. The Germans were provoked. They went through their hyperinflation, their degenerate Weimar Republic episodes, and that's how Hitler rose to power. And it's because I'm sorry, not all the Jews of Europe are guilty of this, but they caught the brunt of the backlash. But you did have provocateurs in Europe that were atheists, that promote the first transgender reassignment surgery.
The subject is youth crime.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm given time, and I have free time to speak. I'm going on.
No. You don't have free time to speak.
I'm going on my rant because it's connected to youth crimes. It's the
youth crime.
It's the degeneration of society It's the degeneration of society that has led to youth crime. Okay, I'm just explaining how we got here. All right, we youth crime, as you wanted to blame it on a lack of statistics. I disagree with you. I say that religious values and teaching a responsibility and fear of God and shame has its place. All right, even though these crimes may have been committed in throughout history, whether reported or unreported, it was not as brazen and as shameless as it is today. Society has become degenerate and shameless, and that is why you're getting this phenomenon repeating itself in a brazen manner. You know, when you disconnect all your moorings, all your anchors, all your foundations, this is when you get the sick culture we're living in today.
Okay.
All right? Bolshevism is evil.
Thank you for that segue. Right. So, who would like to? Do you want to go first? And since it's your,
I'll probably go last.
All right.
Actually.
Who wants to go first? Volunteers?
Should I? I'll go first. Okay. So what I want to say might sound a bit weird, but I agree with everybody because I think everybody's essentially said a lot of similar things, and they are that we should have some sort of moral teaching. Because I think Taz, you said that. Sam said that as well. We should do something as take some community responsibility. I also do agree. I think that religious values do help in create stable parenthood, because you can see that's declining in the West. People are not having, they're not having children. They're not staying in long-term relationships. That's a statistical fact, except for the religious people in the same countries. So especially Muslims, we have the most stable relationships, forming the most children in all these countries,
10 seconds.
all around the world. So I think these are fundamental things that protect children from criminality, and that's also statistical truth. Like, for example, if you don't have a father in the home, you're more likely to be a criminal. So yeah, it's not hating on anybody. It's just actually love to forward these facts so people do stay in relationships to protect children from criminality. That's it.
Thank you. Claire, would you like to go next?
Look.
I muted myself. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm just going to say that children will be learning.
Microphone cut out.
Sorry. Sorry. Somebody came on and that distracted me. So I'm saying that children will obviously need some kind of moral teaching, but unfortunately most adults are bereft of moral teaching because although Anglicanism is the official religion of Britain, nobody really believes in it. Everybody openly mocks it. So the church is in fact irrelevant. And I think Dulce is quite right to mock the irrelevance of the church and what they got away with. And I think it is time to have a new moral system that actually is enforced by law. So morality isn't just a subjective thing,
10 seconds.
a feeling that you think is wrong. It has to be a system of rules that people know is enforced by law, and that would prevent juvenile delinquency and child criminality. Thank you
very much. Josh?
No.
You want to go last? Are you ready or should I go?
You go.
Okay, well, let me start the clock. Again, it's this fallacy which is prevalent amongst religious people, which is that history only started less than 100 years ago. And throughout that period, it was all perfection. But as again, we don't know, because guess who burnt all the records about youth crime in the past? It was all done by the religious leaders who did unspeakable acts against children. For youth crime to diminish, there's always going to be youth crime. No one's arguing that you can stop that. But what there should definitely be is strong youth groups, money dedicated to the improvement and letting children go out into the countryside and the holidays, because a lot of children can't afford that. So definitely having lots of money spent in development, outdoor pursuits, another understanding philosophy and great teachings, and this will minimize abuse. And we live in austerity, and that breeds desperation in not only children but adults. Thank you. And that was me. So there's only 3 people left.
Yeah, go on.
So obviously, child criminals are rarer than adult criminals. It's quite a rare, I wouldn't say rare thing, but children generally aren't criminals by nature. They're not, malevolent and nasty, as I said earlier, they're clean slates. But the more important thing for me would be to think about adults that harm children. It's all well and good, we want children to be protected in the community and have social groups and lessons and camps, like things in the countryside, like you were saying. But what about, are children going to be safe with adults in these things, particularly in, there's a lot of scout leaders or church groups. It's prolific. God knows how many priests have been paedophiles or leaders or cult leaders. Doesn't need to be religious, but the people that tend to get in a position of authority to run a children's group, to think, oh, look at me, I'm such a lovely person. Those are the people in power that can abuse children, and that's a more important thing than children being criminals. It's the people that are criminal against children.
Thank you. I think we have 2 people left. So Sam, would you like to?
Yeah, we're staying on the subject.
Go. You've got 1 minute.
Staying on the subject of what is it? Child crime?
Yeah.
Youth crime.
Okay. Youth crime, child crime, youth crime. It's all as a consequence and a symptom. Again, I'm staying on topic. Youth crime is a symptom of the decline of Western civilization. It's just a major symptom of the decline of Western civilization when you have crime in general on the rise, and youth crime is a more exaggerated form of a crime that is on the rise. It's a symptom of the decline of Western civilization. And on the other side of it, after all of the
10 seconds
real suffering and misery that's about to be endured by the entire world, but especially the West, there will be something better. Yeah.
Perfection. As in time. Just clarify that, really. 1 person left.
Josh, I'm guessing, or not? Or
Yes.
Claire?
Yeah. I think that, in cases as bad as the Bolger case, I think for things like murder, or like if premeditation can be proven, or is more or less can be more or less proven, I think that 10 is round about the appropriate age, but only for the most severe of crimes. I think that it should be stratified, and I think more than anything else, it's telling that we expect children to know what's legal and illegal, like what's no big deal and what's simply being naughty and what's really serious. It's really telling that we expect them to know all that by the age of 10. Obviously, I'm not talking about murder. I'm talking about various other crimes, but lesser crimes. But it's very telling indeed that we expect them to know exactly what's illegal and illegal, and yet we don't actually teach them law or criminology or anything like that until the age of 16, 6 years after you can be held legally responsible. That is actually, when you think of it, when you think about the minimum age for criminal responsibility, that kind of sounds crazy. On the other hand, for things like murder, the James Bolger case doesn't make it sound so crazy, even though the act itself was pretty crazy. So yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think everybody has had a really, really good contribution to this very sensitive and serious subject. Round of applause for everyone. Whoop, 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 whoop. And I'd just like to say thank you again, Khalid, and everybody that's contributed. You're all wonderful. We disagree, though. just to clarify that. But we've done it in a very professional fashion. We should all be proud of ourselves. I'm just going to say my name is Dust, and I'm now officially settled. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, he likes. Yeah, I want to echo that. Like, I feel the same word. Like, proud. I feel proud that this tiny corner of the internet, where we're getting together, talking about some really difficult issues with completely different opinions. Me and Dust completely disagree, but I'm so grateful that he starts at the ball rolling, really, by being here every week. We have a discussion. We completely disagree, and I like how he kept all the times and things like that. And on top of that, it was a great bonus to have all these different perspectives and personalities from different countries, 3 different countries here. It was great and unexpected and great in so many ways. And thank you so much for people in the live chat. I know Alika's from somewhere in Sweden or something, and we've got some other people, Birmingham and other places like that. So great. Thank you very much, everybody.
Have a good night, people. I'm about to go to bed.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, Claire.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. No hard
Bye.
feelings. Bye.
So I'm going to end stream now. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Khaled.
Yes.
Nice one. That was, but we're still live, dude.